feeling like I'm floating to the ceiling. Is it?
This show just came out a couple of weeks ago on Netflix. Very, very brief endeavor. 5 episodes, all about a half hour apiece, if that, really, maybe even 20, closer to 20 minutes. But this is sort of adapting an experiment that he's tried. He's done a Vince Staples show on YouTube numerous times. And so this is now sort of transitioning that property into, I think, a proper streaming property and potentially creating what might be a new reoccurring show that's still, sort of determined or remains to be seen as to whether or not they're going to continue with the show. Netflix and Vince Staples are kind of currently deeming it as a limited series. I think that they're kind of playing their cards close to the vest just based on the performance of the show. But I feel like if it is successful, if enough people watch it, we probably will get future iterations of this. But be that as it may, 5 episodes have dropped to really kind of provide a glimpse into the life of Vince Staples, or a fictionalized version of himself, at least. That's a very important aspect because that's like the opening title card. But what did you think about these 5 episodes of the Vince Staples show and the story that they gave us?
Yeah, man, Vince Staples he's just one of my favorite people. If you ever watch him talk about anything, it's always both funny and probably informing. That's what makes him so cool. He's like one of the smartest dudes walking to me. And this show really feels like what is the surreal version of his life or experiences that he's gone through, and looking through the lens of him that also encompasses other I think nuances of blackness, right? The other experiences that it seems like we might share or go through, but again through his lens, as somebody who has grown up in Long Beach, California, not a safe place. not a very safe place. And so I enjoyed it, man. I didn't laugh at everything, but also I enjoyed everything, if that makes sense. And I remember he did an interview actually where he was like, if you actually watch the show, nobody is ever really telling a joke. Like, you might be laughing, like us as the audience may be laughing, but he said himself, he's like, nobody's really telling the joke. Like, a lot of this really is dark humor, again, based probably off of some exaggerated, of course, but somewhat some kind of real experience. And so I found myself having a good time with the show, man. I did laugh, I think, where I feel like I should laugh myself, but there's a lot of times in the show where something happens or there's an experience and I go, yeah, I have been through something like that before. I have felt that before, or at least seen that before, or that makes sense to me, from that sort of glaze, or from the sort of gaze. And so, man, I had a good time with it. It was just too short. I was like, dang, 5 episodes, but he's campaigning. He's trying to get that second season, which I think he'll get. I'm not really worried about it, but I love the energy that the show takes. I love the style that the show takes. He said he was talking to both Quinta and Donald Glover in the making of the show, and you can see that, I think, in the show, kind of some advice he was getting from those two in particular. But man, I'm just looking for more episodes at this point. And yeah, I think he'll get them. But yeah, Vince Staples, he's on to something, man.
I really appreciate the trajectory that he's on, because he's clearly taking this acting thing pretty serious. I mean, he was on Abbott Elementary for a lot of episodes last season. And so this transition now into his own show on Netflix, which again is, sort of taking the skit that he produced for YouTube a few years ago and now blowing it out into a full-fledged story, or at least 5 sort of isolated episodes. It's a really bold yet really creative and I think ingenious endeavor on his part, just because of who he is as an artist, because Vince Staples isn't like the most famous guy in the world. Like,
Yeah.
he could still probably go outside and be just normal and not recognized by a good chunk of people. He's sort of still at that point, I think, in his career where, and they talk about this in the show, where there's kind of a not a nothingness, but just the idea that he's somewhat obscure because he's not the most well-known rapper. He's not the most well-known artist. And I think that that's like something that works particularly well in his favor, because I don't know if I get the sense whether or not this is like a true thing or not, but it feels like he's less interested in music and wants to pursue more of this acting sort of entertainment, sort of things that he's doing lately. And I think that he can sort of be reflective about his music career and the fame that he has accrued up until this point. And we see that take shape in all these different episodes and just the weird offbeat scenarios that he ends up in. Like, it's ridiculous situations that he finds himself in on an episode by episode basis. Somebody on Letterboxd said it really brilliantly. It's Curb Your Enthusiasm in Long Beach, and I thought that was just that was so appropriate, because it's like, how do
Yeah.
you end up in this situation, dude? Like, how are you here right now? Especially a guy at your level, you shouldn't be in this type of situation. But it's funny, I think it's the type of funny where you look at certain things and it's awkward funny, or it's like, I can't believe what I just witnessed funny. It's not necessarily, hold my breath, I can't breathe type of funny. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily clutching my stomach, so to say, but almost everything that I saw was like, yo, that's actually kind of crazy that just happened. You got an episode where we're searching for chicken in an amusement park. Of course, there's like a bank heist robbery that happens, which is also just like wild and random. There's so many scenarios where it's like, dude, you should not be here. He also gets locked up in the very first episode, and you have to see him navigate that little bit of fame that he does have in an environment where he should not be at all. Like, he should be very much removed from this, but because of his past and because of his upbringing and just like the different scenarios that have played out up until this point, he's ended up in this really precarious position. So it was really good. I liked it. It is just really, really short. I think 5 episodes is just such a tease. I do appreciate the fact that they set out to make every episode its own individual thing. Like, you could really just dive into this at any point. You don't have to watch it in order. Although I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you wanted to just watch episode 4 on your own, you could do that and just not watch anything else. It's not like this long, serialized, interconnected story. I think we need more of that stuff. Like, I think we need more of these low stakes shows that just don't require really much of you. I just watched Quinta Brunson on Hot Ones, and she talked about how the best sitcoms that she enjoys the most are the ones that just don't require too much of you. They're 22 minutes.
Exactly.
You watch them like right before you go to sleep, and you don't have to think too much about them. Often these hour-long dramas that we experience in the TV prestige era, sometimes if it's good enough, at least, you might be drained after watching it. It's like, wow, that was a lot. This is a great experience where it does not have to feel that way. You can just watch it so casually. You could be doing something else and still fully enjoy it. Like, I actually think that it works perfectly as background watching, something that you can do while you're doing something else. I think it works perfectly that way too. So overall, kudos to Vince Staples, kudos to his team in developing this, and hopefully they do get a renewal and can take this further, but we will certainly have to see. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new show, the Vince Staples Show on Netflix. If you've checked this out, hit us up and let us know what you think.